welcome back or welcome to my channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Grace. And in today's video, we are hopefully going to spend a really fun and sunny weekend together, exploring London and surrounding areas. Today is Friday and it is our first full day back in the UK after coming home from Benidorm yesterday. So we still have it off as an annual leave day, which is really nice, a nice return back to sort of everyday life, but still being on leave. Ben and I are actually off to Hammersmith today to go and view a potential wedding venue, which is really exciting. It is a place called Kindred, which looks to be a very beautiful building with really funky and cool interiors. The way that it's decorated is really up mine and Ben's alley. Like, we really enjoy sort of colour blocking, strong colours, patterns, and just sort of interesting knickknacks and things that catch the eye. What I've noticed from going to quite a few wedding venues so far is that a lot of places cater to the more general aesthetic, I suppose, that people might like, which tends to include a lot of like soft colours and very blank walls with like cream and beige, which is totally fine, I get that, but it's not really mine and Ben's flavour. So the place in Hammersmith looks really exciting. The colours are really what I would like to see in a potential wedding venue that I might pick. My one hesitancy about the place is that I used to live in Hammersmith, albeit only for a month, so I sort of know the location in which Kindred is based, and if it's correct, if I'm thinking of the building that I think it is, it's right next to Hammersmith flyover, so I'm not too sure how loud or disruptive that might feel, and it also is just obviously a very busy location. I also think it looks onto one of Hammersmith Tube's entrances, right from the courtyard of the wedding venue onto the doors. Like, you literally come out of Kindred and the doors to the tube station are right there. So I'm not sure how that is going to go. I don't mind there being a bit sort of crossover with the general public. I think that's sometimes quite fun on a wedding day. I know that I really enjoy seeing couples and families in celebrating a wedding out in the wild, but I think that feels a little bit too busy. The fact that it's a tube entrance right next to the venue, I'm not sure how I would feel about that on the actual wedding day. So I'm going to try not let that affect my judgment. And I'm going to try and go in with an open and honest heart and mind, and see how we find it. Tomorrow, Ben and I are off to Rye, also to go and view a wedding venue, which is quite rogue for us because we initially thought that we would go purely to wedding venues that were either in London, which is where we currently live, or in Wiltshire, which is where we're both originally from. But Ben just saw this link for this venue that we have been to for a drink before, because it's also a pub. And we have a free Saturday, so we thought we might as well go. The weather in London this weekend is getting up to around 35 degrees, so I think we're both quite excited to go somewhere where it will still be hot, but it won't be quite so warm. We'll hopefully get a bit of a nice breeze and also be surrounded by much less concrete and much less heat because of that. And then on Sunday, I think we're just having a bit of a relaxed one. We've not got really any major plans. We obviously have a lot of life admin to do after just getting back from a trip, so I think it will just be a day of relaxing, mooching in the local area, and also hopefully doing some exercise and some hobby stuff like knitting and reading. So if that sounds all interesting to you and you also want to have a sneak peek into some wedding venues that we have gone to view, then keep watching and I hope you enjoy this video. As you would have seen in the clips earlier in this video, I've spent most of today working on my breezy long sleeve, by Kiss Kiss Rhinestones, which I spoke about in my first video. I have been really enjoying the process of making this so far, until I noticed today whilst I was on the tube that I have somehow twisted my second cast on line. So where I joined under the armpit, I've somehow managed to twist the stitches, and it has created, unfortunately, a very visible and very recognisable change in the stitch pattern. And the only reason I really noticed was because I found the process of knitting was actually quite hard, like the actual knit stitch. I was working in the round, which is usually brilliant, just flow state, meditative, just really enjoyable. And I was really finding that I was having to kind of force my needle into the knit stitch, and I couldn't figure out why that was until I looked at the bigger picture and realised it's because I've twisted my stitches. And if that is not a metaphor for pulling back, looking at the forest rather than just the trees, and sort of seeing, yeah, what the problem was. So I'm a little bit bummed, if I'm being completely honest, just because that is a lot of effort and time that's gone into sort of even just this sort of maybe 20-25 stitches or so, just this section. I think unfortunately I'm at the point in my knitting career where it doesn't come necessarily easy to me. I still have a lot of learning to do. I still get things wrong pretty much all the time, and unfortunately that has made me a bit more of a project knitter rather than a progress knitter, in that I really enjoy knitting for what I think I'm going to get at the end of the process, rather than the actual enjoyment of the process. I think that hopefully will change as I become more confident and grow my skills in knitting, and just like my general learning really. But I'm seeing this as a really good test in that I will have the opportunity, I'm choosing to do this, to frog back to just below the armpit and start that part again. And yeah, I'm going to see this as a test in mindset shifting, and to try and build my love of actually just knitting and learning a new skill, as opposed to wanting to rush through and finish a project and just have the finished results. And I think we're all probably a little bit prone to that sometimes, especially when we really want to wear the thing that we're making, which I do. But I'm reminding myself that, yeah, this is a choice. I am choosing to frog this back to that point. I don't have to do this, but I just know that if I finished it having had the stitches still twisted, it would, one, look quite obvious to me, I think, where sort of I went wrong, but also secondly, there's still a fair bit of this left to knit, the body of, and I just think the process of knitting it would actually not be pleasurable, which is not going to help with my aim of trying to enjoy the process of knitting a little bit more, especially when it's something that is, you know, oh god, it's really obvious. Anyways, yeah, so that's put a little bit of a dampener on my day, but I'm not going to let it spoil what has been a nice Friday so far. I am going to just get my yarn winder machine thingy out and frog back to the armpits and just continue again. I don't have a particular time span in which I need this project finished by. It's just something that I'm doing in my free time because I enjoy doing it. Ideally, I think it would be nice to have this done before the end of the summer, because I do appreciate that this is probably more of a summer outfit piece. But to be honest, with long sleeves and the fact that it is obviously still knitted, I think I probably could get away quite easily wearing this in autumn, and potentially even in winter. And even just saying that now, I'm already thinking that this was something like a nice chocolatey brown would be a really nice, like a nice pair of brown trousers or something would look really cute. So that is my current update of my breezy long sleeve. It wouldn't be a Grace knitting project if something didn't go wrong, and if something didn't go wrong multiple times. This is the second big issue I've hit with this particular project, and this is very much down to user error as opposed to pattern error. I purposely chose the largest size of the breezy long sleeve because I was concerned about it fitting me, which are, in actually creating the very first version of this, I think I got to just around the same point as I currently am with this version and realised it was far too big. So I am now hitting my second bump in the road, which is where I have realised that I've twisted my cast on needles and my stitches. So it's fine. It is a learning curve and a process, and I have other projects that are running alongside this. So if I do feel I need a break or a change of pace, a change of project, I have the option to do that. So that is where I am currently at. So Ben and I have just got back from a really nice day in Rye. We actually went really sort of spur of the moment to Rye, because Ben had seen that one of the pubs that we had liked when we visited, I think it was 2 summers ago, actually does weddings. So we thought we might as well just go and have a look at the venue. Rye initially wasn't a destination that was even sort of in our periphery of thinking about where we might get married, but we've seen quite a few wedding destinations now, like venues, mainly in London, but a few in Wiltshire and Somerset, which is where we're originally from. And nowhere was just feeling like us. Like everywhere was quite, I guess the word would be classic, a very classic wedding venue. But it was a lot of like crushed velvet and silver and like dusty pink, which objectively nice enough colours, but not really mine or Ben's taste. So we'd seen obviously that the George did venues, and the way it looked decorated online and for what we had seen when we'd been for a drink previously was that it would be probably quite up our street. So we just said, we've got a free Saturday, we might as well go. It's also supposed to be like 35 degrees in London, which it was today, so it was much cooler, although albeit still very hot in Rye. I've already taken my makeup off because I was just feeling like so overstimulated by the heat and stickiness of today. But yeah, it's really easy for us to get to Rye. It's about an hour's train journey, so like not hard at all. And it was a really nice venue. You'll probably see from the snippets that were included in this this clip, in this montage, that the sort of decoration and styling of the George is just absolutely beautiful, and it's really like up mine and Ben's alley with the way that they've decorated. The ballroom itself is stunning. Like they've got this beautiful sort of chinoiserie sort of style wallpaper, a disco ball. It's just really like what we were wanting, and it's quite unusual, I've found, based on the places I've been to look at, that a lot of wedding venues, mainly sort of the dance floor / seating area, they're all very whitewashed and just kind of like sterile and clinical, I found. So it was felt really nice to be in the George, where it felt very like personalised to the place, and actually their way of styling really suited us and how we prefer interior design. So I think we might go for it. We really like it. It's a little bit different for us. We were originally planning on getting married maybe in London, or at least in our home county of Wiltshire, but we've honestly been to maybe 9 venues now across 3 months, and nowhere was really sort of hitting the right amount. It was, you know, places were really nice, but they were just weren't reasonably priced. The costing was just like astronomical. And granted, whilst getting married anywhere is expensive, it does feel that the George is maybe a little bit more reasonable, and I think you get a lot more for your money. And I think I was also getting stuck on this sort of like idea of getting married in London, which obviously is currently where Ben and I live, and it just didn't really feel special enough to me. I think I kind of got drawn a little bit into this whole influencer mindset where you see people online who are getting married, who are obviously incredibly wealthy and also have a lot of free time, getting married in like a 4-day service or ceremony in like Tuscany or Spain or somewhere like that. And actually, even for myself in my personal life, I've been to the last 2 weddings out of 3 that I've been to in the last 8 months. 2 of them have been abroad. One was in Benidorm last week, and the other was in Cairo in October of last year. So I think I was thinking that was something that I would need to do. I'd need to go abroad, you know, really eke out the wedding process. And actually, whilst Rye is a bit of an unusual choice for us, it sort of has given me that sense of going away and having a bit of a holiday, even though it's in the UK. And for most of our friends who do live in London, it's actually really easy for them to get to. So yeah, it's very exciting. We're hoping that the dates that we're wanting are available. We have to liaise with the sort of registrars and town hall and stuff, but if that's the case, then I think we will be getting married in Rye next year. So that was a very successful trip. Also just nice to leave London when the heat was so hot. It is sweltering in my flat currently, so I'm just about to go and sit on my terrace with a big glass of Aperol and work through a knitting project. You will have seen yesterday that I started frogging my Kiss Kiss rhinestone easy breezy long sleeve, I think it's called from memory, and I started making another Kiss Kiss rhinestones pattern, which was the top 3000. I spoke about it in my previous video about combining a glitter yarn that I had already, a sequin yarn that I had already, with a sort of like a fuzzier blend, which I picked up not that long ago. I started knitting that up last night to make a gauge swatch, and I instantly just did not like the colour. I probably should have known that from the get-go. The yarn I picked to knit it up with, I can't remember what the makeup of it now is. I think it was sort of like a mohair-esque type of fabric. It's a nice colour objectively, it's quite mustardy, but it's not a colour that I ever wear or really like. And I think I was relying much too heavily on the sequin yarn to kind of change the colour into one that I would enjoy. That is not the case. And also the sequin yarn is not as large. The sort of width of it and the size of the sequins are not as big as the stricken yarn, which I think is the recommended sequin yarn for the pattern. So I decided to just scrap that entirely. And I need to think about when I'm going to go back potentially and return the sort of like cashmere yarn to the wool shop that I got it from. So at the moment, what I'm hoping to work on is I'm going to make another go at doing the free pattern that was released by Ava P, which is the poncho knit. I started that, actually I do have it here with me right now. I started that in this really beautiful sort of like very fine glitter fuzzy yarn. Again, I don't remember the composition of this, so apologies. And the gauge was obviously really off and it's much too small, which is a real shame because that would have been perfect for what I wanted. What I think I'm going to do is actually make that pattern, but with the Lang Palettes sequin yarn, which I have already got. And I've only got 3 balls of it, but I'm just going to sort of knit and knit and knit and see how far we can get with it. I think it'd be perfect for festivals. I have one coming up actually in the beginning of July, so I'm really hoping that I could potentially get that completed by then, so that I can wear it to Wolf Alice, who are playing in Finsbury Park. So I'm going to start on that this evening. I know it's going to be a real test of my skills, because I've tried knitting with the Lang palettes on its own before, and it's incredibly slippy. So we're going to see how that goes. Fingers crossed I don't throw my needles out the window and give up on it, because I really love the Lang palettes yarn. I'm just finding it really hard to work with. But yeah, I'm feeling motivated. I'm going to sit outside, watch some YouTube, have a glass of Aperol and get started. So all of the things to do, all the things there are going to hopefully help me make make this work and push through and see how we get going with it. But yes, I will update as and when I have more to say. My Sunday started really nice and slowly by reading my book in bed before heading to my Pilates class, which is quite early on a Sunday morning for me. It starts at 10:15. Ben decided that he wanted us to run afterwards, so we went down to Herne Hill Market, which is our usual stop on a Sunday. We popped into Lulu's, which has to be one of my favourite restaurants in my local area. I think it's fantastic, and the fact that it does like deli stuff and coffees is just like an added bonus, on top of just being a really genuinely nice wine bar and small plates place. We didn't get a coffee from Lulu's today. We actually went to Perks and White, which had a stall in the market, and then just kind of browsed. We looked at all the lovely fresh fruit and vegetables, mooched at the flowers and got myself some peonies, and then got a nice loaf of bread to take home to start making lunch with. We started to walk back through the park, just enjoying the sort of the lovely views and the warm weather. The sun wasn't really out today, but it was still lovely and hot. And then just looked at the lovely glut of food that we'd brought back. Peonies are in season at the minute, and they are one of my favourite flowers. I got these for £6, which I was shocked by, but honestly, they were so beautiful and they opened up really quickly in the flat. The rest of the Sunday was basically just spent mooching around the house. I did a little bit of tidying, a little bit of cleaning, and then was in a real mood to make some lunch. Lulu's does this amazing mackerel pate, which I know for some people would probably be quite icky, but it honestly was so delicious. And it's just a really nice way to sort of have a light lunch. So I put myself together a little sandwich, as you can see here, and then I basically spent the rest of the afternoon sat on the terrace trying to finish my book so that I could take it back to the library.